So a game that truly surprised me this year was Stellar Blade. Now this was a game that I had no expectations for. When I first saw it, I thought it was just going to be a copy of Nier Automata, mainly because I saw a thick Korean woman in here and I was just thinking like, oh, it's just going to be a copy of Nier. And majority of like the gameplay and stuff and majority of what I saw people talk about was just like how thick she was and jiggles and other type of things. That's all I ever saw. And then I did finally see combat and it looked interesting. But when I played the demo, I liked the demo, but it was not enough for me to justify paying $70 for, because honestly, this game is not worth $70 at all. Like, this is more of a game you get when it goes on sale. I didn't pick up this game until way later on. I picked it up in July, mainly because I went to like this replay and they had this there and it was only $49. I said, you know what, I guess I'll try this game. I enjoyed the demo, but then as soon as I put this in, I actually really enjoyed the game, surprisingly. Because like the demo, it was okay. There were some things in the demo I did not like. Like, I'll say the way that Eve was moving in the demo, she was moving hella slow and I kind of did not like that. But then as you play the game, you know, you can move faster and all that. But those little things I didn't like. Some of the pairing and some of it just felt a little clunky at first in the demo. So, but there were a lot of things in the demo I enjoyed. But when I finally picked this up and played it, it opened my eyes and made me realize, oh, I actually do enjoy this game. Yes, this game is not perfect because, trust me, it has a lot of problems and we will talk about them problems, but it also does excel in a few areas, and that's like the one thing that makes this game really good though. But yes, let's talk about Stellar Blade. Now, when it comes to Stellar Blade, the one thing that this game does really, really well is the combat, because the combat is actually really fun and it is addicting. It's one of these ones you can just run through and slash and attack people. Yes, there's a lot of other moves you can use. Yes, you have your regular attacks and you have your strong attacks along with some of your specials that are connected through like beta and other things like that, and most of the time those are really fun to do. There's one that I always love doing that I act like she's doing a slam dunk, and it's the one where she's essentially just poking the enemy back with a sword and then she jumps in the air and I just joke and said like she's about to dunk that bitch on somebody. So kind of reminds me of that. But yeah, the combat's really funny. It was just really addicting in this game. Yes, you do got to do a whole bunch of parrying and kind of dodging. That's the main thing in this game, and the parrying and dodging, they're okay. I will say the majority of it just seems like they're more like quick time events, because you always got to click a button at certain times. I will say that when it comes to those, but sometimes you can't just press circle and you can get off a dodge. Other times it seems like there's quick time events ish, but it's not really quick time like that, because most of the time you're just pressing the button. But there are a few elements that do feel like they are quick time. You do have them in the boss fight. That's mainly towards the end, like after you already beat the boss and you have the cutscene. That's when you get the quick time events that happen. You just click certain buttons, but most of the time the quick time events are not really nothing crazy in this game, because it's usually just connected to like killing somebody. But when it comes to the parrying and dodging, there's multiple different dodges and parrying that you can do, and they can cause different type of things. You have your regular dodge that you just flip back, but also you have the dodge where you can like slide all the way to the back and kill somebody, and then there's even another one, I think that's purple. So yes, it's really fun when it's this combat. The combat's actually really fun, and as you go throughout the game, it becomes funner and funner as you upgrade Eve and make her stronger and strong, and you go around the world collecting certain things that are upgrade your weapons or upgrade Eve's health. So that's one of the things this game does excel at, is when it comes to the combat. The combat is so goddamn fun. Yes, there are annoying parts when it comes to the combat, but that's mainly when it comes to the enemies, and we'll talk about the enemies later. But when it comes to just running around slashing enemies and taking them out and using different type of special moves, it's a really fun and addicting. And also when it comes to the combat, towards the end of the game, there is one thing you do unlock, which is tacky mode. It's okay. It's just one of those OP broken modes. I will say it's like I upgraded it all, and I felt like I really wasn't really taking enemies out like that whenever I would use it, but it just depends like where you're at, and you can knock out a lot of enemies. It's just something that you can activate especially if you're struggling, just to survive a little bit longer, because like when you're in tacky mode, it just has like a certain amount of time you can stay in it, and then most time when you get hit there, that's not really affecting your health like as you're going down. But like speaking of health, one of the things I will say is the enemies in this game, they do hit hard, so like you got to make sure you're on your P's and Q's when it comes to dodging, when it comes to parrying and actually taking enemies out, because you can get hit so hard, because that's happened so many times in this game where I was just getting hit and my health was always whittling down. You only have a certain amount of health you can use in each part, because like when it comes to the main health thing, you have to go around collecting stuff, and then you can get your health to go all the way up to the maximum way it can be, along with the health part that's up on the D-pad. So like you have that type of health along with some of the supplies you can buy from people, but it's always just a limited section, so you got to make sure you're on your P's and Q's, that way you don't run out of health, because most of the time in this game you're not going to really run out of health, because you have so many different options of health. Like you shouldn't technically run out of health, but even if you do, you can always just run back to the save point, and then you're be able to sit down, and then she rests up, and then you get all your stuff back. You don't really run out of health like that, but you can get your ass whooped. I will say that. There is one item that is pretty cool in here where it's like a heart, and then in certain areas, like if you die, you can just press that heart and it'll revive you back, instead of you dying and coming back at wherever the last point that you saved at when you sat down. Now I already touched on this a little bit with the weapons, but there is one other weapon that you do good in this game, is the drone that's with you this whole whole time. It actually, once you meet Lily upgrades it and all that, and it actually becomes a gun. And this actually does become important, mainly because there is like 2 different missions that like people have been saying like reminds you of Resident Evil, but to me, kinda not. Like, it's kind of a Resident Evil-ish level, but in those 2 areas you only can use the gun. I will say the first time you do the mission, it's pretty cool because like it's the first time you do it, but then when the second time you do it, it's just like a carbon copy. Yes, there's like little different things. Like, one of the ones that is kind of different is like, one, there's like this area where you have like these little mirror things you're moving around, and you essentially are trying to like power up like this one generator or whatever it is, that way you can get to the next room. I forgot exactly what it is, but yeah, you have that. But like, majority of this mission is like you run into like humanoid type things and you're just using your gun, and like they go down really easily, especially the second time you do it. The second time you go to like the place that's just like the first time, it's super easy compared to the first time, because the first time you just kind of get used to it. You're like, oh shit, I gotta use this gun now. And then when it comes to the gun, you have a lot of different ammo. Like, the main gun you have is kind of like a machine gun-ish, and then you have like one that can be a shotgun, a rocket launcher, one that shoots out lasers, and then you have one that's essentially a rail gun. They're all pretty useful to me. I know I've seen some people that don't really find the gun to be that useful in this game, but to me, for the most part, it's really useful, when, especially when you're in a boss fight and you just want to have some distance away from the boss. You can just shoot the boss, and I would always use that, and it just whittles their health down a little bit. Some of them will do stronger than the others. It depends on what things you have equipped the Eve, and it'll make some of the guns stronger. And you can always upgrade the bot that you can get more ammo for each of the guns, because like some of the areas have it that you can get more ammo. But yeah, the gun for the most part to me actually was really useful. And then when it comes to those 2 areas that people were calling like the Resident Evil levels, they're okay. The first level was a little bit better than the second. The second level just kind of just felt like we were doing the same thing already, because there was a lot of the same things we had to do. And even when you get to the end of the thing, they both have the same boss, so it's not really nothing special. So that was like one of the things I was kind of disappointed when I got to the second one, that it was the same exact boss. I was just like, wow, that's kind of disappointing. And all I had to do that was just shoot it, and it was super easy to shoot, especially the second time, because I had stuff upgraded. So yeah, the levels, it's okay. There is a lot of little creepy atmosphere-ish early on, but then for the most part, it's not really nothing crazy. It's just like a fun little level that you're in there for. Yeah, it is kind of annoying because some of the things you have to do in here, and it kind of just feels like, why do I really need to do this? They could have just kept me having the sword. I can't lie, they really could have though. Now I want to talk about some of the areas in this game, because when it comes to the open world and some of the exposition that you can have in here, it actually is really fun and addicting. And one of the things that helps that is the music, because of course the music is really good, and that's one of the reasons why I was able to explore all these areas and look for some of these different items, because the music was hitting. Now let's talk about the areas. Now when it comes to some of these areas, they are kind of unique-ish, because mainly because you're on Earth and you have a lot of these areas are very destroyed. Yes, you do have the one city where you have like some of the last humans and just like robots, wherever they are, that are living there, and you have that city, and that looks like a city. But you have a lot of areas that are just very destroyed. Like, you have the wasteland, the great desert, and like those 2 for the most part, they're both in deserts, but like they do look vastly different, but besides just like the desert and stuff, but they each have like their own unique atmosphere. And when it comes to 7, that one is like probably the most unique area, because you have a lot of different things in there, because you have the starting city right there, that's when it's like all that one just reminds you, because like it's all wet, rainy and all that. And then you get to like a different section of it that has like a construction part, and then like even when you finally get to like the one city part, once you drain all the water, you see like how it actually was, like how the city was, and looks pretty nice and all this. So there's a lot of uniqueness when it comes to all the different areas. But the 3 areas I really want to highlight, because they're the ones that I actually cared about the most, because like they're really, when it came to the areas, they were cool, but at the same time there were a lot of annoying things, especially when it comes to like the 7. That one was really annoying, mainly because that one you can't really see nothing on the map, and especially when you're trying to do side missions or you're looking for cans, that one became very annoying. So like I didn't really like that one a lot. But the 3 that I actually did enjoy a lot, like looking for stuff, one was the Great Desert, the Wastelands, and then the final area, because the final area was really cool. It was the coolest looking part of the whole game, especially because like when you first get there, you have like you have a snowy mountain type of environment, and that shit looked really cool. And when you finally go inside, it's a whole bunch of this technology, and it just looks really dope. That's why I really enjoyed that area a lot. And then when it comes to the Great Desert and the Wasteland, I just really like those ones, just because like when it comes to the Wasteland, you have a lot of just destroyed things, along with the Great Desert. I will say they do kind of just mirror each other, because there are a lot of different things there. When it comes to the Wasteland has that one destroyed ship, which is a pretty cool, along with a lot of other destroyed things there. But then when it comes to the Great Desert, there's a whole bunch of like highway and other like freeway type of things that are destroyed, and that just makes that one really unique, along with some of the big buildings there that are just very old. And you can tell just like how the weather has affected them, because they all look like stone stone now, so like that's one of the cool things about it. And I just love the exploring when it comes to those two, because those two areas are really big. And even when it comes to the Great Desert, you have like that one area where you're going all the way down and you're moving like this, like down a slide. I will say there is some BS at times when it comes to that, because I'll be moving one area, the next thing you know, she gets hit. Because like I remember I hit something and I was just like, oh, we can hit things, and it was like, nope, you're gonna get sliced up if you hit some of those. So that area is cool, but at the same time it can get annoying. Now when it comes to annoying things in the environment, one thing I gotta say that's very annoying that's in the environment is those goddamn red walls. I don't know why sometimes I could run across those really well and it was fine, but then there's other times where I just could not run across them and it got so annoying, so I really hated it. So I don't know, I hated that shit with a passion. And also one other area I got to talk about is the area that you go with because of Lily, and that whole town is just like surrounded by like slides, and that's like pretty fun. I will say that one was a really cool area because like you had like the whole like area just surrounded by a whole bunch of slides that you can go down, and that was really cool. Just remind you of a big ass water park. So that's why I really like that area a lot though. Let's talk about the enemies, because the enemies are really cool and unique in this game because they're called the Natiba, and there's a lot of different ones. Yes, you have some that stand on all fours. Yes, you have some that look like some weird insect thing. You have others that look like humans, even though spoiler alert, they're all humans because of like, if you know the story, but I digress though. There are other ones that have like weird things on their head. Other ones are just like some long real creature. And then also you have ones that are robot, and also they just all look really cool and all that. But there's one enemy I have to talk about because I hate it, because it's so goddamn annoying. That's in the Great Desert. When you have them ones that dig underground, those ones can be so goddamn annoying because they come out the ground and hit you. And sometimes when you're running away, because like every time I'd be in the Great Desert, I was always try to like run not close to them, but somehow they would lock on you, and those ones are so goddamn annoying. Every other one in this game, they aren't that bad, like for the most part. Yes, you have some that can hit hard, but you can take them out easily. It's just those ones are really annoying because they jump out of the ground. Sometimes they can surprise you, especially if you're not paying attention behind you. It can just come up and hit you, and that gets very annoying. I've took so much damage because of those stupid enemies. That's the one enemy in this game I hate, but for the most part all the enemies are really cool. And talking about enemies, one thing we got to talk about is the boss fights, because the boss fights is one of the best things in this game. This is where you could tell they put their all into it, because all the bosses look really cool. Yes, they do remind you of like some angel type of stuff, some Bible angel type of shit. It does remind me of that with some of the bosses, but the boss fights are really fun, and they're one of the best things in the game, because you're gonna get the cool cutscene at the very end, like when you finally take the boss out, and then like Eve's gonna do some crazy thing to the boss. So that's one of the things I enjoy, just fighting all the different bosses. There's so many goddamn different ones that you have in this game, and like they're all really fun. Yes, you do have some where you have to fight some big ass Natiba, but also you have some where you find like some other android type of people, especially like when it comes to Tacky or Raven. So like you have those ones, and those ones are really fun. Yes, you do have, I will say, the Raven one where she can like do a super OP attack if you don't shoot the thing down, and it can like one shot you. But for the most part, the boss fights really weren't that hard to me. Yes, I had times that I was struggling, but at the same time I never really just felt like, oh my gosh, this is way too goddamn hard. I mean, I will say I think I only played on story or normal. I don't remember which option it was, but I played on one of those. So I mean, I really didn't play on like the hardest mode, mainly because like when I got it, I wasn't really worried about that. I was just trying to beat the game. So maybe that's why the boss fights really weren't that hard to me. Maybe if I played on the hardest mode, maybe that's when the boss fights would probably become harder and harder. But for the most part, what I played on, it really wasn't that hard though. Now I'm gonna talk about the story, but I'm gonna do it briefly because I really don't want to go in detail with all this shit. I just want to say my opinion about the story. Now when it comes to the story, it's kind of ass. I'll say 90% of the game, the story is very meh. It's very mid. It's not really that remarkable. But then when we get to the very end, and then we get all this lore dump along with like all these cool things that's happening, that's when the story, in my opinion, actually got interesting, because all the stuff before that, it was kind of just meh. In my opinion, it wasn't really nothing that moved me. It was mainly towards the end when we got all this other lore and all this other information that actually became really interesting to me. That's how I felt it. It honestly just felt like 90% fluff, and then we had like that last 10% that was really good. Yes, there's some other stuff that's sprinkled in here that was good, like some of the beginnings. So maybe I should say maybe it was like 80% fluff and then 20% good stuff, because the very end is when it gets really good. And like I said, there's little things that sprinkle in that's interesting. Like, if this ever does get a second game, which it more than likely is, I just hope they do focus more on like improving the story and make it more interesting, because there was a lot of just points where I just did not care, mainly because I really don't care about none of the characters in this game, because the characters in this game, in my opinion, really weren't that interesting. interesting. Eve was probably the most interesting, but at the same time, Eve did not really have that much depth, because there's so many scenes they could have like showed that Eve would have some depth, especially like when it comes to Tacky. I feel like Eve could have had more reaction to Tacky, and like maybe we could have learned more stories and other things, and they could have talked, and like we could have had like Eve talking about the past that she's had with Tacky, especially because she comes back and they have to fight. So I just feel like that's one of the things they just didn't really go that in depth with all the characters, and a lot of the side characters, they're okay, but they weren't really nothing I really cared about. Like I can't even remember any of the side characters' names because I really did not care about them. But I will say there is one side character that had me go like, who the fuck are you? And that's at the end of the game when Eve is about to go off with Lily, and we're finally about to go to the final area, and you have like all the people there from the shops that you can buy stuff from, and then you have some random ass book person there, and I was like, who is this guy? I've never seen him in my goddamn life in this game. Maybe I just didn't go to the right area where the book guy is supposed to be, but like I had no idea who that nigga was. All I know is I went there, bought all his goddamn books, and then I was able to get other outfits. But yeah, he was one of them people I was looking like, who the fuck are you? Because I had no idea. He was just randomly there, because I remember looking at him, I was just like, who's he? I was like, who is he? Is he just somebody they just added at the end of the game to just be like, here's some more outfits that you guys can get? Now, one way this game could have actually added more to the story is if the side missions were actually interesting and fun, because this game has horrible side missions. Because early in the year, I played Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Rebirth had phenomenal side missions. And then going from Rebirth to this game that had side missions that are ass is so disappointing, because in Rebirth, I did every single side mission. Almost every single. There was like one side mission I didn't do, but like that one was, I just didn't feel like doing, but I digress. But in this game, I did every single side mission. Like every single one. And they were boring because they were the same shit. It was like rinse and repeat, because either what the side missions were in this game is either you go to an area, you find an item, go back to the board. Or you go to an area, find an item, next thing you know, you gotta fight enemies, then go back to the board. Or you go to an area and you have to fight a monster, and then you go back to the board. And that's all there was. And a lot of it was just very, very boring and repetitive. There was never really anything interesting. Yes, you had some side missions where you have certain characters, they would talk. Like you had like the one little girl that's a shopkeeper. She was sometimes like had this whole like on again, off again thing with Eve, mainly because it's through like the shopkeeper, like her older sister. Eventually you do find that older sister. So yes, you have that there, but at the same time, they just always felt very, very boring and repetitive, and I just found myself being very bored with them because they just got very annoying, because they were always just the same thing, because they mainly only gave you like 3 options that you would get, and they would always be very boring to me. Yes, you do have fishing, because fishing is another side mission, but that's like not until you get to the Great Desert, and that's later on. But just majority of the side missions are very boring, and I found myself just bored with them, and I was just kind of just annoyed and disappointed with them, mainly because I just felt like I was doing the same goddamn thing each time, and it just got annoying. Like as I'll get to new areas, I was thinking like, oh, are we gonna have finally some unique side mission? And it was just like, nope, same old bullshit. Nothing really connecting to the main story. Yes, you have connections to some of these side characters, but it was never really nothing really cool when it came to them. It would be you fight this enemy, then you go back and you just have a conversation with them, or you don't have no conversation at all. It was just like kind of mad to me, and I was just like very disappointed with that though. Now, talking about fishing is really fun in this game. I would say that's one of the things that's really, really fun. I will say at first, fishing was not fun for me until I went to the settings and turned on like the one thing you can do for fishing, and that made fishing way easier than the bullshit that they had, because like the normal option for fishing is some bullshit, but once you turn that one thing on, you can start having fun with fishing. You can catch so many different types of fish, which is really cool. You can catch a puffer fish, a catfish, a great white shark, so like there's so many cool things. And even with a special bait, you can even catch a whale shark, which is really, really cool. And also you can catch one of those like prehistoric fish too. That was one of the things that was just really cool, was just fishing. But I would say there is one fish that pissed me off because it was the last one I needed, and that was a sunfish. It took way too goddamn long to finally find a sunfish. That shit was so goddamn annoying, especially because in this game you need to like basically collect every single fish and get their data point. That way you can get this one outfit from the one guy, and that's one of the things I wanted, because I wanted to get the outfit, because when it came to this game I was trying to just platinum it-ish. I didn't platinum all the way, I was super close to platinuming, so I was trying to get like all the easy trophies, and also I wanted to get like all the different outfits that I can get for Eve, because Eve has a lot of outfits. But yeah, fishing is really fun. It was one of the funnest things just to do in this game, just to waste some time, and I actually really enjoyed it. Once I got the hang of it and actually realized, oh, you can get all these fish from some of these different areas, I was like, all right, let me go catch all this stuff, because by the time I got the special bait, I was only missing 2 fish, and just know it became very annoying finding them 2 fish. But the sunfish was the one that took the longest, and it pissed me off because I had to keep going back to the one guy because I was running out of bait, because that's how goddamn long it took. I really hope whenever they add DLC that they add more fish that we can catch. Like, why not add like a big ass blue whale in here, or a sperm whale, or some more prehistoric like dinosaurs or fish or something? I feel like that would be really cool. Add a killer whale, add a dolphin, add all these different things that we could just potentially catch. That's one thing I hope they add to the game if they make some DLC, or if they make a second game, why not add that to the fishing too? Because I feel like that would be really cool, because fishing was just a cool thing that you could do in this game to waste some time, and it was fun to do. Now, one of the other things that makes the exploring in this game really fun is that you have a lot of different collectibles, and then you have a lot of different like other items that you need for upgrades that you can find throughout the area. Now, when it comes to the collectibles, the first thing we got to talk about are the cans. Now, this game has cans that you can find, and that's the collectible for this game. And just know, when it comes to the cans, they're either super easy to find or they're super hard. There is no in between, because they're either super easy or super hard, because the super easy ones are the ones that you just see as soon as you get there as you're exploring. You're just like, oh, there's a can right there. And some of the other ones, you just go to a certain area and you're just like, oh, this is the area that I clearly can get a can at. So you find cans, because like most of the time you can get a whole bunch of cans from the area. Because like majority of like when I went to a new area, I would find majority of the cans, and then I would only have a few that I would have to look up online where they're at, because they would be hidden in some bullshit ass place. And I'm just like, why? Because there's so many times that they'll be missable, or you won't know what to do. Because in the Great Desert, there's this one area that I remember having like this sparkly thing that kept jumping up, and I was like, there has to be something here because it keeps jumping up. And then I didn't know what to do until I went to a video like later on when I was trying to find all the missing cans, and I was like, wow, I had to put a detonation grenade right here and then I can get this can. I was just like, wow, I would have never thought of that. That's one of the cool things about like finding collectibles in games, is like you got to make them at least easy in some areas, but you also got to make some of them very difficult to find. And that's why I really did like the way they did the cans in this game, because you need to have some cans be super difficult to find, because you don't want every single can just to be super easy to find. So you got to have some that are just hidden in crazy places that people would never think of for the most part. Now, some of the other things you can find in here is you have these little robots that are scattered in like random areas, and most of the time all you have to do is run up to it and either slash it or shoot at it, and the next thing you know it explodes. And then sometimes they'll give you like parts for like different upgrades, either for your sword or either for your drone. So just drop like supplies and all that, and it was usually cool to find. And then one of the things that sometimes would piss me off is like there's these crates that you can find in different areas, and like when you'd open up it just give you supplies. But there's certain things about the crates, is there's some crates that just open up, but there's other ones you need passwords for. And then there's other ones that I hate, where you have to do this thing where you have the arrows pointing a certain type of way, and you have a time limit, and you have to get it right in that time limit. And that one would become very annoying, especially because you would get very confused. I mean, I would get confused, I should say personally, I would get confused sometimes when it came to the one, because I'd be like, oh, I gotta click this one, oh, I have to click the opposite of this one. So that's why that one would become very annoying. But for the most part, I would get them after a while, but it did become annoying, I will say. And it's just, I'll just be like, dog, why are we doing this shit? I was like, I hate this shit. But I will say they did add some variety to those, because you had one that it was just like random, and like the one that did like the stuff random to me was better than the one that's doing it like in a row, and you got to go all the way down till you get it. But for the most part, it wasn't that bad. But at the same time, there would be times I would get annoyed with it. One of the other cool things you would find is like you would find some of like Eve's like sisters or whatever they are, like you would find them basically dead. And like what the thing is, you would go to them and they would give you like certain type of things that you can upgrade, either your health or like beta or any of that. And that would be like some of your things that you see towards the bottom, like with the health and beta and all that. And they would just be hidden sometimes in crazy places, or sometimes you'll find them like super easily. Because I still have a few that I need to find, because I did not find every single one on my first playthrough. But for the most part, they are pretty easy to find. Now I want to talk about the outfits, because this game has a lot of really cool outfits. You have outfits that are referenced to other things. Like she literally has an outfit that's literally a reference to Kill Bill. You can clearly tell it is, because like the way the outfit looks. But this game has a lot of really cool looking outfits for Eve that you can collect. Either you have to find them out in the wild, because like there'd be random areas and they might be an outfit hidden there, or you have to buy them from some of the shopkeepers, or you get them from missions. I will say one of the things I do hate about the outfits is that almost all the ones that you buy, or some of the ones you find out in the wild, you have to get enough material to make them. I'm just like, dog, why do I gotta make these? Especially like early on in the game when you don't have a lot of money, so you can't buy all the materials, because you can find a lot of those materials out in the wild, but at the same time you can go to a shopkeeper. It's like the one girl that has a sister thing, I forgot what her name is, I think it's Aya or something like that. You can go to her and like she has the materials, and you can usually buy the materials from her, and then like you can just like get a whole bunch if you want to, and then you can make all these different suits. But yeah, but besides that, the suits are actually really cool, cool because there's so many different ones, because I found myself wearing so many different outfits throughout this game because there's a lot of really cool looking outfits. And I remember reading a thing that said like whenever this game gets DLC, like some of the DLC is going to be outfits. I don't know exactly when that's coming out. And also I heard that there's supposed to be a photo mode in this game, because it makes no goddamn sense why this game did not have a photo mode on release, especially because this game has so many cool looking areas that you'd want to take pictures with Eve. So I know it's supposed to be getting it sometime, or maybe it already got it, I don't know, because I remember seeing the thing that said it was getting it in August, but then I went there and I never saw no goddamn photo mode. Maybe it did get it, maybe I need to go look into it, but I'm pretty sure it did not get it yet. Maybe it did and I just didn't pay attention though. But yeah, the outfits are really cool in this game, and whenever this does get a photo mode, or if it does have a photo mode, I'm going to be taking pictures in a lot of those different outfits, because they made Eve really stylish in this game, along with like being able to get different type of hairstyles, and of course getting different accessories like earrings and glasses, so you can have Eve looking really stylish as she's taking out all these goddamn enemies. Now my final thoughts on Stellar Blade is that it's a game that surprised me, because I can't lie, I thought this game was just going to be another just horny ass game, because the way Twitter was making this seem like, and all the time I would see clips, I would always just see horny shit. Because I remember seeing some uproar because people were talking about, oh, they're censoring the game because they wanted a whole bunch of blood and shit, because I guess in the demo there was more blood than the actual game. And it's like, dog, when you're actually playing the game, you don't give a fuck about the damn blood and all that. So I don't know why people were complaining about that, especially because in this game you can see all the jiggles, all the ass, the titty jiggles that you want to, because all you got to do is go down a ladder and you'll see some ass and titties jiggle if that's what you want to see. I'll just say that though. But yeah, that's one of the things I thought about at this game, was like it was just gonna be like some super horny game that's just gonna be like one of these ones, you know, you just got a thick ass Asian girl and you're just gonna be like, oh, this is gonna be one of those. Because I just thought it was gonna be a knockoff Nier, but just like a more horny version of Nier, because like that's what all the stuff I would see, it just seemed like it. And like, because every time I would see gameplay or anything on Twitter about this, it would always just be Eve in her outfits. It would never be people just showing off gameplay. So I always just thought this was gonna be some super horny game, but then I actually played it and I was actually surprised. I was like, wow, this is actually fun. I said, that is just Twitter being wild and showing all this horny shit instead of actually showing how fun this game actually is. Now, is this game of the year? No. This is most definitely not game of the year. Having a boring ass story and then them side missions that are ass and then having a whole bunch of bland characters, yeah, this is not game of the year. If you hear anybody talk about saying this should be game of the year, just know they tripping. They just like how thick Eve is. That's all you gotta say. They like it because Eve is hella thick, because this game ain't game of the year at all. Like, it's gonna win some awards probably, more than likely it is, because it's that good of a game because of how good the combat is, but it's not winning game of the year. I'll be surprised if this even like gets mentioned as one of the potential ones for game of the year, because it honestly is not that good. It's just a AAA title, and that's why it's going to get some nods, but at the same time it's not really that great of a game. But like, it's a cool game. Like, if you see this for like less than $70, pick this up, especially if it's less than 60. I'll say if you see this in the range of $20 to $50, maybe pick it up if you really want to play this game, because that's the only amount honestly you should pay. You should honestly not pay more than $50, like minus tax and all that, because this game is not worth that at all. Like, this is more one of these games that should be like a PlayStation's greatest hits, but you know, PS5 has not even put out no greatest hits yet. So if it makes a greatest hit, then pick this up for like $20. That's what it's worth, because either you can wait till next year, or maybe during the holiday season they might finally have this game go down, because they have not had this game go down besides if you go to like, you buy this used or whatever, because that's the only way you honestly should buy this, because it's not worth the full $70 though. If you played Stellar Blade, let me know how you feel about it. If you've not played it yet, why not pick it up and play it at some point, because I feel like it's really good. And also, it's a pretty easy platinum to get, because I'm almost done with the platinum. I'm about to do another playthrough because I wanted to do New Game Plus. I'm gonna get it probably by the end of the year. I'll get the platinum, but I literally have like only a few more trophies to get, and the trophies are really easy. I just didn't get them the first playthrough. One of the ones I forgot to do was like kill like enemies 50 times with the tacky mode. I think I had only a few left in it, and other ones are getting the different endings that this game has. But this game does have a lot of different endings that you can get like as you play it. You have to do certain type of things though. But yeah, Stellar Blade is a game that surprised me because it actually was pretty good, and it wasn't just a horny game.